Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Invested, my podcast where I sit down with founders, creators, and business leaders making an impact on the world. Today's guest is unlike any of the others I've had on, and I am excited to share his story. Gibson Ardoline is an entrepreneur and content creator from my hometown of Naples, Florida. Gibson has amassed over 1.7 million followers across the various social media platforms by creating content that is both relatable and funny. His posts regularly surpass 1 million views, and he even has 2 TikToks with over 13 million views each. His success across multiple platforms shows his deep understanding of how to go viral and keep your audience coming back for more. But Gibson is more than just a TikToker. He graduated high school earlier this summer as a valedictorian of his class, and he will be attending my alma mater, the University of Florida, this fall. In today's conversation, Gibson and I discuss what it takes to go viral, the business behind the scenes, and the challenges that come with growing up online. I learned a lot from my conversation with Gibson, and I'm sure you will too. Enjoy.
All right, Gibson, thank you so much for joining us here today. I've got plenty of questions prepared, some questions that I want the answers to, as well as I know a lot of my audience wants to know as well. But before that, would love for you to kind of just give the quick 30-second elevator pitch on who is Gibson.
Okay, so I don't really know. I mean, Gibson, I just graduated high school. I'm starting at UF in actually about like 6-7 days. So I am in one aspect just like a regular, just graduated high school college student. And on the other aspect, I do social media as a full-time job, which is definitely a little bit out of the ordinary. Not your typical job that you'd expect like a high schooler to be working, like at the McDonald's down the street. So it's definitely unique, and it's been something that I've had to adapt to, but it's cool for sure. And we can get into that more as we talk on this podcast.
I guess for someone who doesn't know your content, where are you posting more often? Where is the majority of your audience? I understand you're all over YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, but where was kind of the origin there? Where did you get your start in terms of your content, and what platform do you like posting on the most?
Yeah. So I started on TikTok, and I was pretty lucky, I'd say, because I had some friends that really helped me out when I first started, that really got me into it. And very, very early on in my, doing the social media thing, I started posting everywhere all at once. So I was doing TikTok and solely TikTok
Yeah.
for probably a month. And then I started, realizing that, oh, hey, if I'm posting short form content on TikTok, I can do the same thing on YouTube, Instagram, even Snapchat Spotlight.
Right.
So I post
Yeah.
basically all the same content just on every platform. TikTok is my biggest platform right now, and then YouTube right behind that. So
No, I think that, it was convenient for you to make content that was so easy to put on different platforms. That's been something for myself. I've always had a YouTube channel, and when I'm making a 10-minute long video, sometimes it's kind of hard to trim that down into under 60 seconds, but it's something, like you said, you got to adapt to. You mentioned also before you treat the content as a full-time job. I'm curious just what that looks like. What's the system that you have? How much time are you spent filming? Are you doing the editing yourself? Have you outsourced that? We would love to kind of just understand the behind the scenes that goes into it, because of course to us we just see the finished product, but I'm sure there's a lot more that goes into the video that has 1 million plus views.
So most of my videos actually don't really require much editing. I do very simplistic content. I have made videos before that do require editing. So like I posted these probably back in I experimented with this back in August, September, October of 2023. And I did some videos that were like man on the street videos, and I would edit them in Adobe After Effects. Just one of my boys that, that was kind of his thing. He got me into it. He kind of taught me how to edit on there. So I was doing that for a little bit, but no, the majority of my content is I film it on TikTok. However many tries it takes, maybe the most I spend on a video is 20, maybe 30 minutes, but probably 5 minutes. They're very, very quick videos. I usually try to bang out, a handful a day. While I'm in school, it's 1 to 2 a day. Over the summer, it's been like 6 a day. So I mean, the more the better. But yeah, it's not a huge process. It's pretty simple. It's just mostly thinking of like clever spins on like trends is like what I do. So I post a lot of content that's like trending stuff, but you can't really like stand out with that because everybody does that. Everybody that wants to blow up does that. So you kind of have to put your own bit of personality on it, and make that like a spin on the trend, and make it what people want to see, what's interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can relate to that even just kind of in the finance and the YouTube creator economy space. There's a lot of competition now. And so, yeah, you always have to find the opportunities to stand out. I've seen a lot about saying, oh, you need to post 3 times a day on TikTok and you need to post once a day. You've tried a lot. And of course, I understand sometimes it's dependent on you being in school and just naturally not being able to post as much. I'm curious, just from your experience, was there a certain time that you thought you were seeing a lot more engagement, a lot more growth? Was it at the 3 times a day? Was that the 5? Like, what's the cadence that you've seen a lot of growth be helpful
So
for you?
yeah, so every platform is a little differently. Specifically with TikTok, I would say post as much as you can. If you can post 8 times a
Okay.
day, that's perfect. But you really have to spread those out a little bit. You don't want to post 8 times on that
Okay.
day within an hour. If you post 3 or 4 of them within the hour, that's fine. But what, me and my kind of group of friends that do content have been like, experimenting with lately is more of like a storyline behind our content. So if we post
Yeah.
something and we're like wearing like certain clothes and we're like at the airport or something, we post all of those videos within an hour or two because like, oh, they're at the airport right now. Like our audience sees that and they want to
Yeah.
follow the storyline. So, if then, 6 hours later I post and I'm still at the airport, people are like, what? That just doesn't make sense. So there's kind of
Yeah.
like a storyline to it, but there's not really any like, I feel like the general rule I live by is like, if it's a good video, it's going to do well. So I don't
Sure.
know, but there are other platforms that are different, like Instagram, for example. And I break the rules a lot with this. Instagram, the algorithm is kind of favors creators that post once a day on Reels. And I don't like
Okay.
that because I have so many videos. Maybe I'm filming 4 or 5 a day, and I want to post all those videos because
Yeah.
I don't want to take a gamble and say, "Oh, that's the best one. I think that one's going to do the best." So a lot of times I just post all my videos,
Right.
and that might not be the best move, but it's just kind of what I've been doing. And I'm growing on Instagram, but there are a lot of people that post once a day, and that's like pretty proven to be kind of the best method. I've spoken with representatives at Meta before, and it's just, I think that's just really, how Instagram works. YouTube is just like TikTok. You can post a lot, and like Snapchat Spotlight is kind of the same thing. You can spam on Snap. So
Yeah.
yeah, every platform is a little different.
Yeah. No, that it's interesting. Yeah. And I guess that's how the platforms themselves can kind of differentiate. They don't all want to be the same. As much as they all look the same, the algorithm that goes behind it is pretty different. So yeah, really interesting to learn about the content side of things. Because again, like I said, I've just always been in the long form area, but looking to navigate the next generation of content. But diving into a little bit more of your backstory, let's go into high school. So you mentioned how you just recently graduated. You're starting at UF in a few days. You were quite the student yourself. You the valedictorian of your high school, which is really impressive in Naples, Florida. I think that's something that may have caught a lot of your audience off guard. The one video of you with your speech, I think, was a great speech. I think it shows a little bit more to who you are than just the creator. But curious if there's anything else about you that you think is a huge part of your life that maybe your audience doesn't know about.
I don't know. That's actually a really hard question to answer because so much of my life I post online. I mean, even on Snapchat as of the last
Yeah.
couple months, I'm posting on my story 20 times a day because now
Yeah.
now outside of short form content videos, there's Snap monetization programs. So I'm really into all areas
Yeah.
now. So it's really hard to kind of leave something out almost. I don't know. Yeah, I
Sure.
did, I put a lot of work into school, especially my senior year. Graduated valedictorian. I have posted that I did run track and cross country in high school, but people might not know that I did do that. I mean, I'm going to UF.
That's true.
Been posting about that recently. I don't know, honestly. Like I post everything everywhere. I feel like I don't have a
Yeah.
very private life anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that a good thing or a bad thing? That kind of leads me to the next question. I mean, being so viral, documenting so much of your life on social media for everybody to see, do you think that was positive for your high school experience, or was it a negative, or was it kind of somewhere in between?
I would say that it was definitely somewhere in between because I am somebody that does not care what people think about me. Now, it is definitely not the life for everybody because there are so many things that you'll hear if you're in my position, good and bad. And I
Yeah.
expect the same when I go to college. So I don't know. it was positive for me personally, I think, because it kind of like shows people's like true colors almost. Like you kind of see people for
Sure.
like who they really are when they show their opinion on you. Like when you're just doing, like living your life, maybe I'm not doing everything that
Yeah.
every other normal kid is doing in high school. So I don't know. But then at times it's negative because it gets annoying. But like there's people that'll come up to me all the
Sure.
time and they'll be like, "Yo, you're the TikTok guy." But then it gets like nagging and it's like over and over. And I'm like, "Yeah, man, that's me." But I don't know. I didn't personally have any really huge negative experiences, but
Yeah.
I know that there are other creators that have. That's the thing. So it's definitely a mix
Sure.
of both.
Yeah. Well, I think you have the right perspective on it. I mean, for myself, I was making videos back in high school. I went to Barron Collier, which you went to for a few years, I guess. And so it's just even so different now. Of course, TikTok wasn't even around back then, but how mainstream being a creator is. I mean, I was making videos about like sneakers and basketball, and that was still like thought of as super weird and a faux pas. And so I got, people definitely gave me a hard time about it. And, it's one of those things now that like I'm 2 years out of college. I'm really building a brand for myself on social media, and it's super beneficial for my corporate life, for kind of elevating all the other aspects of my life. And now everybody else is trying to catch up, and so I think you're just at the cutting edge of that. You'll see as time kind of moves forward, having that personal brand, having a ton of connections all across the country, across the world, is a net positive. And so it's one of those things like high school is a bit strange, but it's one of those things that when you start crushing it, you can't really deny the numbers. And so I think that's just something you gotta be used to. And it seems like you have the right
Oh
approach
yeah,
to
when
that.
you phrase it like that, I do not regret it at all. I mean, there's definitely high school is like a completely different question when you're asking when it relates to high school, but there's been, obviously it's a job and obviously I make money off of what I do, but outside of that, the connections just like you said all across the country. I've met so many people doing this. Definitely one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, it's something that I talk about quite a bit on the channel, but it's just the concept of your surface area of luck. So, life is all about putting yourself in positions to have good things happen to you. And so for me, living in New York now, that obviously expands my surface area of luck much more than being in a small town. And also posting content online, all of a sudden, it opens me up to millions of people. Even just going to the office in person. This was a big aspect of a few years ago when everyone was so remote and hybrid, starting off their corporate careers. Just going into the office just expands that surface area of luck. And so for myself, just putting myself out there online, going to events, it creates so many opportunities for good things to happen to you, and you really start to see those things compound. So really glad you're kind of aligned there, and I'm excited to see kind of how it all turns out for you too.
oh yeah, for sure.
So going into college now, I'm sure you're pretty excited. I'm a fellow UF grad, so I'm super excited, a bit jealous of you, probably. But now that you're entering your freshman year at UF, do you see your content changing at all, or do you kind of see it just being a continuation of what you've been working on? And I guess, are there any content topics that you're looking to explore to kind of take advantage of this next chapter in your life?
So I don't know that my content style is going to change a huge amount, but I'm definitely going to be posting different things. I'll probably be posting like going back to what I was saying earlier about how me and my friends have been posting a lot about like the storyline, like what we're doing, like genuinely more about us. And we're doing that because it builds a better
Yeah,
connection with our audience, which is better for brand deals. And it's a
right.
huge spiral. So I'll probably post a lot about like, I'm moving into my dorm on Friday. So I'll make videos about like, hey, come
Yeah,
with me to move into my dorm. I'll do stuff like that. And then I'm moving into my apartment in August. So I'll probably talk about classes and, stuff. I'll talk about some
yeah,
stuff. It'll definitely be some more college like focused content, but I'll probably won't get rid
yeah,
of, a lot of the like trending stuff I do right now. But
sure.
that's like what I was saying earlier about how like I do trending stuff and then you kind of have to incorporate your own personality into it. It'll be a lot of
Yeah,
my personality will now online be more like, oh, hey, now it's a lot of college stuff. So it's not going to
right.
change really, but it will like alter with like the storyline will, progress, I should say.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and I think there's so many opportunities for content when you're in school. What dorm are you in at
I don't
UF?
know if I should put that on here.
Ah, that's true. That's true. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because yeah, I was in Murphy Hall,
Okay.
and I hope it still exists because
It
Murphy was
does.
like beautiful. It was 50 feet from student rec, which was the gym closer to campus.
So
It was a great
it's funny you
spot.
say that because if I'm not mistaken, I remember hearing about it back when we were picking like dorm locations, probably back in May, I think this was, and I heard a lot of people saying like, "Oh, I don't want Murphy. I don't want Murphy."
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I was in a triple. So I was with two of my buddies from high school. And it was perfect for us because it was a huge triple. It was like an L shaped. And it was super convenient to everything on campus. But to be fair, it was only good for me because I was with my friends. Like the rest of Murphy was like a little bit strange. So there definitely are more social dorms and all that to be a part of. So if you're not Murphy, that's probably a good thing too.
Yeah, no, I
But
feel like you
kind
can't
of
go
diving
wrong,
back into
really.
the content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean anything at UF is going to be a good
Oh, yeah.
time, but I'm curious just even understanding your college application process. So UF just continues to get harder and harder each year. So
Thank you.
congratulations for getting approved, but I'm curious, if is was social media a part of your college application process? Did you mention that
Big
in
part.
your application?
Big part. Huge
Okay.
part.
And how did you kind of talk about that? Yeah,
So that's really funny. So I had not the strongest confidence that I was going to get in actually because my SAT score was rather low for like a typical UF SAT. But there's a couple reasons. So I took the SAT twice. Once I took junior year and I took it again like over the summer at the end of my junior year. And I never studied for it because I don't know, I just didn't want to put the time into it. And I part of me like knew that there were like more important things that I wanted to do. One of those was being social media, also
yeah,
classes. I took 9 classes my senior year because I went into senior year, I switched to a new school. I did not think I was going to be valedictorian, and I went into senior year and my counselor handed me my transcript, said 1 out of whatever, and I was like, "Oh, I'm valedictorian. That's crazy." And at the time I was taking like 4 classes. I
yeah,
was just going to breeze through my senior year, but I picked up like 5 other classes just so I could, stay valedictorian. And I don't regret it at all. But
yeah,
point is I had a lot of other things on my plate and I never got around to like really focusing on like testing. So that was definitely a very
sure,
weak part of my application. So I knew that the rest of my application had to be very good. So obviously,
yeah,
my SAT was a 1270. So and I know a lot of
okay,
people are like, "Oh, that's not bad," but that like for UF, I feel like that's definitely on the lower end.
right,
So I'll read off some of like my application. So I had my 1270, definitely my weak
yeah,
point. But then my GPA at the time of applying was a 5.3. At the time of applying, valedictorian, and then also I had president of Key Club, president of National Honor Society. I had a student government sergeant at arms. I also had no, that was school. I also had 3 years of varsity cross country and 3 years of varsity track, going into my 4th year of varsity track being the team captain. And then, so that's it for school. And then outside of that, I had started my own landscaping business that was going for about 2 or 3 years. I did landscaping for a bunch of the Airbnbs in my neighborhood and stuff. And then also did like house,
yeah,
like walkthroughs, like checking houses. And then I also had all the social media stuff. And that was huge because
yeah,
that was like a couple bullet points. Because on top of like, hey, I've grown my own following, I also put, like I've managed a couple people's social medias and helped with that, and then also like filmed. And I'm also on like a paid contract with like another like London based social app that they pay me to post on. So there's a couple things
okay,
there. And then I wrote my whole like personal Common App essay on social media and like how I want to tie my like social media experience and platform into getting my business degree at UF and how I want to use that to start my own business or whatever, comes from that. I don't know if that I'm 100%
yeah,
sure yet, but so I would say that, I feel like I'm bragging right now, but outside
yeah,
of
yeah,
my SAT, I had a pretty solid application. So I kind of knew that I had to, make sure that was good because my SAT is definitely not on the
right.
high end for UF. So
Well, again, congratulations. That it's funny you say that because the first video I made at UF was talking about why I got into UF, how I thought I got into UF. And so that's kind of what started
mm,
all my content as it is today. And similar to you, I didn't have the strongest SAT and ACT scores. It was kind of right at that median. So nothing to feel really confident about. But what I felt did kind of allow me to stand out was my extracurriculars. And that's what I talked about in the video is just how UF really does seem to, they really prioritize people who have the extracurriculars. I think it's probably a little bit different now, but at my orientation, they said like 50% of the people who were accepted were varsity athletes, varsity captains. And I was like, that's a really cool stat. I was the captain of the varsity basketball team. And it just showed that it was like a really well-rounded school. And I think that's just the beauty of UF is it is all those students who still, of course, were good academically, but they brought so much more to the table. And I think that's what it kind of just creates a really good environment on campus at UF because everybody is so multifaceted. And so it's just really interesting to hear that, you had a very similar experience in terms of making sure that you were a great jack of all trades.
Right.
You mentioned kind of how the content side of things has helped you kind of understand a little bit more about what you want to do with your career. So would love to know what you're studying at UF and kind of what the plan is. I know it's way too early to really talk about that, but would love to kind of know what the dream would be, what the small business would be that you would start yourself, where you want to take that. I think on this channel, I talked to a lot of founders. I just posted a video with the founder of a public company, sold it for $9 billion. So I think we have a lot of people in the audience who are interested in entrepreneurship. So would love to just hear kind of what you would love to do one day with your career.
So right now my major at UF is business administration with a Bachelor of Arts in General Studies. Now, I don't know if that's going to stay. I might go to Bachelor of Science or a BS in either finance or marketing. Really don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I really don't know. I just know I want to be somewhere in the business world. And whether that becomes, starting my own business or being somewhere in the world of social media management, maybe, because I have grown a big interest in that field ever since I started my own social media channels and all of that. So I don't know. It's going to be somewhere, in that general area. Right now I'm going for business administration and we'll just see where that goes. I plan to just, figure it out as I go.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's all you can do. I switched from finance, switched back to finance, was all over the place. And so, I think you have the right perspective going into it. And I mean, even just from your experience now, because I know a lot of people who are on the influencer marketing side of things. So they're the actual brand partners. But for you to have the experience from the influencer side, I think it makes you a great candidate, down the road because you have just such a solid grasp on what the needs of an influencer would be, what kind of deals that they'd be looking for, all of that. And that's just something that naturally most people don't have the experience with. So I think it's just a great thing to continue to leverage, as you approach your career down the road.
Right. Yeah.
So moving into the content and again, a little bit of the business side of things. So I know you're represented by the Clementine Group. When did you decide that it was time to join an agency? At what point were you like, you know what, I kind of want to professionalize this a little bit more? What kind of made you take that leap?
You want to hear my blunt answer or something that sounds a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Let's hear the blunt answer.
My blunt answer is when they started making me a lot of money, I was like, oh, that's where I got to go. I mean,
so they were already making money for you before,
yes.
Because I'm not representative, so would love to kind of just understand what that process even looks like.
So kind of how, I don't know, you were cutting out a little bit again, so I didn't hear what you just said, but let me elaborate on a social media agency, like an influencer managing agency. So the agency I'm with is called the Clementine Group. They established in, I want to say 2019 or 2020, maybe 2021. I'm not 100% sure, but everybody I've met over there is super cool. So no, I'm not just with them for the money because it's a great group of guys and girls. They've got a good team over there. I've been working with them for about a year now, exactly this month. So I started working with them non-exclusively this time last year, early July. Yeah, really, really early July of 2023. And I worked with them non-exclusively. They got me a bunch of deals. And that's the first agency that really reached out to me and stood out to me and was consistent is the best way to put it. So, I was working with them for 2 to 3 months and I started getting closer with a couple of the guys over there. And they kind of just came to me one day with an offer and they were like, hey, how would you feel about, signing with us exclusively, working with us exclusively? We would be able to amp up, how many deals we're getting you. But now you can't really work with other agencies and I just have to work through them. They're very lenient. So I have to
Right.
work through them and talk to, my manager. But I was like, yeah, for sure. I'm super interested. It takes a lot of the weight off my shoulders, and it's very good that I signed when I did,
Yeah.
because I got very busy with school right after I signed with them, and they do a lot of
Yeah.
the back end work for me. They are on my email. I have my emails, Gibson at clementinegroup.co. So they manage all of my
Yeah.
emails. They do all of my outreach for me. So they reach out to companies for me. They just got me sent. So I've been posting a lot of videos like traveling lately. So they just got me a deal with
Yeah.
Herschel. I don't know if you've heard of Herschel.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they just sent me like a suitcase
Yeah.
and a backpack. So we're gonna start, working with them, building out a relationship with them. They just got me a deal with Pottery Barn. So like when I move into the dorm in about a week, I'm
Yeah.
moving Pottery Barn furniture in, which is a little odd. I don't know how I'm going to fit the furniture into the dorm. I was hoping that we could save that.
I know. It's like, that's some nice
Yeah,
furniture.
I
Yeah.
was hoping that we could save that for August when I move into the apartment, but the campaign has a timeline on it. So we're doing that in the next week. So it's definitely opened up a lot of opportunities for me. Clementine got me on Cameo. They've helped me with
Yeah.
a lot for sure. They're hopefully getting me verified on Snapchat right now. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like, they help me a lot, and they take a percent of, what they get me, obviously. Rightfully so. I think they deserve a little bit more than they take,
Right.
to be honest with you. But everybody over there is super cool. I've hung out with a couple of the guys over there multiple times. One of my, the head of music marketing over there at Clem, he came to the Bahamas with us about 3 weeks ago, and then he came to Puerto Rico with us about a week ago. So super cool guys over there.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it's more of a family
Yeah.
almost, but it's good for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, those are some amazing brands, name brands that everybody's heard of. And so I think there's obviously a lot of value there, and they know how to market you in a way that you may not know how to market yourself. And I think, especially being in college now, you're going to see like that's just such an audience that a lot of brands are trying to target. For myself, I mean, I was sponsored by Dell in college, so I got the laptop and all of that, which was great. And like my channel actually like grew quite a bit during it, and then I graduated, and then I'm like, oh, sorry, you're not a college student anymore, we have to end this. I'm like, well, so it's like the amount of opportunities that come to you just for being a college student is crazy, especially at a huge campus like UF. Like that's typically a market that a lot of companies are looking to target. So I'm sure the deals are only going to ramp up. So I hope
Hope
you're
so.
ready for a good productivity system
Yeah.
to manage all that.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned the kind of the community over at Clementine, the other influencers that are with them. Partnerships and kind of collaboration seems like a big part of what you're doing. You've mentioned also the storyline that you're trying to instill just to create a little bit more of a personality in your content. When did you realize that the collabs would be a game changer for you in terms of your engagement? And how have you leveraged that to kind of drive new audiences for your different platforms?
I don't know. I don't know if there was ever really like an aha moment, like, oh, I need to collab with people. It's just kind of like, me and a couple of my friends. So I have two very close friends that both, well, now I have like three or four. They all live within like a 20-minute, radius of me here, where I am right now in South Florida.
Yeah.
And we all got lucky enough that we live so close to each other. So we've all been doing content now, and we travel and we meet new people. We've had people come down to us that all do content, and it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer to me, because I was like, I pick up on their audience, they'll pick up on mine. Even if they're in a little bit of a
Yeah.
different niche, it kind of expands what I do. Maybe I'll find something that I like better even. So I don't know. We've been
Yeah.
collabing with people for probably about a year now. Just we've met a lot of people in Florida and other places, so New York. So
Yeah, no, I mean, it looks like a lot of fun. You also said just the amount of content that you've been posting. I'm curious, do you ever feel that you get in a creative rut where you just don't really know what to do and you feel stuck? Like, and how do you get out of that? Because that's something I experience sometimes. Is just what's the next content, especially when you're posting the volume that you're posting. I'd love to see kind of the watch time on TikTok, your usage. I'm sure it's pretty high, but it's for business purposes. But curious how you kind of consistently come up with new ideas every single day.
okay,
Yeah.
so I mean, a couple different ways. I don't know. I do watch a lot of TikTok for that purpose. I definitely limit myself. I don't think I'm scrolling for more than an hour and a half each day, which is a lot. And it's definitely less when
Okay.
I'm in school. But right now,
Yeah.
I think I'm scrolling maybe an hour a day. And a lot of that is I don't really watch TikTok for enjoyment. I'll scroll on my For You page to look for ideas just to kind of see what's trending because I have to do that. I have to like, find stuff trending early. But then I'll also look at like I
Yeah.
have a lot of mutuals that are other like big creators and I'll look at what they're posting and like see how I can kind of put a spin on it and like tailor it to my content. So that is probably the big thing how I find content. And then, other times I'll have a completely original idea and I'll try to post that. That's more of a hit or miss type of thing, because it's not always following a trend.
Sure.
But, a lot of times when I do like talking content rather than using like a sound on TikTok, that's more of like, oh, like I thought of that more originally than,
Yeah.
finding something on my For You page and then twisting it to like my content. So
So you said when you're scrolling, you find something that is on the early stages of going viral or trending. What are the things that you look for in something that is, early stages of trending that someone, myself or whoever could kind of look for? Like what's like an indicator that something's going to go viral, within reason?
so that's really hard to say, and sometimes it's a little bit of a guessing game. But like, say I'm on TikTok and I'm looking for like a trending sound. Usually, how TikTok works, and I'll keep this very specific to TikTok because that's kind of the root of everything, and then content just
Sure.
kind of gets posted everywhere else. But that's usually where the trends start.
Yeah.
So when I'm like on my For You page, there's a lot of times like how trends work is there's a sound and then there's like a trend connected to that sound, whether that's a certain text or a certain filter with the sound or whatever it may be, or you doing a certain something in the video. So I'll try to find a sound that doesn't have like a lot of posts, but it's has a lot in the last like 48 hours. So I know it's like trending and it's like, oh, this might be really big in a
Yeah.
week from now. So you kind of just have to be able to track growth and see like, what might this sound be doing in a week from now? Because if you can catch it early, that's great.
Yeah.
If you catch it a week after that and it's blown, that's fine because it's a big sound. Now it's trending. But if you catch it right as it's about to
Sure.
trend, that's even better. So I don't know. You just kind of have to look for, is it going to grow? Is it not? I don't know. But the other thing is, I'll say this: if there's a certain something trending a lot, like I don't know, I've been seeing a lot of videos about Wingstop lately. I feel like a lot of people are talking about Wingstop. So if I were to go make a talking video, like, hey, come with me to go get Wingstop with like my girlfriend or something, I feel
Yeah.
like has a better chance of doing better because that's just trending right now and that just piques a lot of people's interest. Wingstop is just being talked about a lot right now. For example, like, there's other times where back in like March, everybody's talking about like the Shamrock Shake in McDonald's, or
Yeah.
I don't even know, like Halloween, everybody's talking about like Halloween Horror Nights, like Universal or wherever that is. So it's just kind of like one of those things. You just track what's trending and be smart with it. You have to have a creative mind with it.
I'm curious too, just how much are you looking back on prior video performance, seeing what works, what doesn't? Like, are you doing a lot of kind of that analysis of just prior performance, or is it kind of you're very focused on the future and understand that sometimes it's just the luck of the draw with if a video performs well or not?
I don't know. I take it very day by day. Social media is always evolving. So like what I was posting a year ago, it's not going to do well now if I were posting that now. And that's not just because
Sure.
that certain thing might not be trending, but also just, the way the video was filmed might not be like how things are filmed right now. Like it's really hard to see the difference between maybe now and 6 months ago. I don't know how you would be able to do this, but if you ever were able to like turn your For You page on TikTok back to like, 2020, and you watched a lot of the videos, they would look very, very different than the videos on your For You
Yeah.
page right now. So if you just kind of take that into
Yeah.
perspective and like think about it like that, I don't say that I like look back on like old video performance really. I mean, sometimes you look back and you're like, oh, that did good. How can I kind of replicate that for like today's kind of style of content? But, I don't do a whole lot
Right.
of replicate. I'm always trying to come out with new stuff is how I should put it, I guess. So
Going into one of the final questions, I mean, you're huge on every platform. You've had some major success. If you were to build your social media from scratch today, let's say, in an alternative universe, you're still the same person, you have the same background, all of that, you just never picked up your phone and recorded a video. Where would you start? What platform would you start? And how would you go viral?
I think that question sucks. And I'll tell you why. because I would
Okay.
start on every platform. You can't limit yourself to, oh, hey, I'm going to start on this platform. Just if you film a video, and here's what I do. I film videos on TikTok and then I just post it everywhere. So, say I'm going to
Yeah.
restart my social media, I'm completely rebranding. Say my name isn't Gibson anymore and my name's Cameron
Yeah.
now. I'm going to start a channel and I'm called Cameron Finance with Cameron. I'm going to make those social platforms on every platform. So now I'm starting a new Instagram handle, new YouTube, new TikTok, new Snapchat, whatever. And I am posting the same video on all those platforms because I think the number one thing when it comes to short form is just diversifying and just covering as many platforms as you possibly can. So I mean, hell, even go out on like, Twitter if you can. I mean, Twitter has a monetization program. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a little less successful, but Facebook is one that a lot of creators don't hit, and I'm a little guilty of that myself.
Right.
But there's a lot of things that this is a question that a lot of creators ask me. They're like, "Well, how did you get so many subs on YouTube? Like, how did?" Because that's like the big thing with a lot of
Yeah.
TikTokers is like TikTokers will have a few million
Right.
and they'll have like 50K on Instagram because like people find it from their bio, but they don't post on Instagram and they
Right.
definitely don't post on YouTube. And I'm just like, why not? Like, just do it. You might as well grow a following. I
Yeah.
mean, now you're just tripling where you can put brand deals.
Because there's no reason to not post everywhere. If it's a video under 60 seconds, you might as well. A question that I have for you, I mean, just because I understand so many people want that audience on YouTube. It's where it's the most loyal, engaged audience. Is long form content something that you would ever explore at UF? I'm sure a lot of the brand deals they would still enjoy a longer form of the content. I'm curious just if that's something that's of interest, or you think that you're just more inclined to the short form
Yeah,
stuff.
I do. I want to do long form, and I've been thinking about that for probably the past 6 months. I was finishing up high school, and I didn't have a lot of time because I was doing finals and AP exams and all sorts of stuff. So I didn't really have
Yeah.
time to think about it. Then I graduated, and then I started thinking about it, and then I was planning on posting some long forms over the summer and starting. And I just got so caught up in traveling because we've been traveling a lot and really incorporating that into our short form content. So I
Yeah.
haven't like really sat down and really thought about it. I do want to do long form, but only if I can find something that I can consistently post at least once a week that I can do
Sure.
not like easily, but that doesn't require like heavy editing or like, heavy like it isn't reliant on other factors. I can do it with just me and a camera is how I should put it. So
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly I would do,
Yeah.
but it is something I'm definitely interested in.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever considered like a vlog, like a week in the life vlog that's, kind of not low effort. I don't want to say that, but not crazy edits, just really taking people along for a week in your life, just because I'm sure a lot of
Yeah,
people would want to see what your life is like on campus at UF, all of that. That's something I've had a lot of success with. So just curious if that's of interest or that's like almost too much sharing of your life and you don't want to go to that extent.
no, because I mean, I pretty much already share all of that every day on my
Yeah.
Snapchat. Anyways, that is something I've thought about, but the only problem with that is the consistency with that. Because if I post a day in the life every week, and I've seen this. This is evident in other mutuals I have that do the same thing. They post day in the life long forms. It's not consistent. The first one will do really good. The second one, might do almost as
Sure.
good. And then by the third and fourth one, and the ones after that, it's just like, okay, this is the same thing. Like day in the life. Here he goes again to the gym, to
Yeah.
class. So I need to find something that's like
Yeah.
consistent that I can do over and over and kind of change it up. And of course, not every day is going to be the same in my life, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty similar, especially while I'm at
Right.
school. So it's something I've considered, and probably if I did long form, would do once or twice. But I don't think I
Yeah.
could do it, every week. So
Yeah, no, I mean the vlogs are tough. For a while in New York, I was doing it. I think I did like 20 straight weeks, which was fun, but it put a lot of pressure on me to do fun things. And so it's like at one point I'd like go to an event just for the sake of having it in the vlog, not really because I wanted to, which was good pressure to make me go out and do things. But it was just like a interesting experience. But diving into kind of just the final question, you've obviously gotten a huge understanding in social media. You've gotten so much exposure to the business world that a lot of people your age are not getting. I'm curious just how you think that you've grown as a person since you started gaining an audience on social media.
that's honestly, I think I've become how should I put this? I think I've become like more like wary, almost like more aware. I don't know, because like I'm always being watched, so I'm more aware of like what I'm doing and like how I'm acting. I guess it's probably matured me almost.
Yeah.
Even though like what I post isn't like
Sure.
necessarily like what you post, like mature content, like sit down, like talk about like finance.
Yeah.
It's like silly stuff, but it's probably has matured me. I don't know, it's changed my perspective on the world for sure. It's changed my perspective on like meeting people and like being as extroverted as I possibly can and just making as many connections as possible. I don't know, that's probably really all. It's definitely been fun, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good lesson to learn. You'd rather learn it through this, that you have to be wary of your surroundings and all of that, instead of having to learn it the hard way. I think that's a great lesson, and it's evident just in this conversation. You do carry yourself very well, and so I think that's a characteristic that'll serve you very well in college and the rest of your career. So wish you the best of luck. Those were all the questions I have. But Gibson, really appreciate you coming on. I think my audience will really enjoy the deep dive into the behind the scenes on the content, and maybe we'll all go viral with you here.
Hey, let's do it. If I ever start a podcast of my own and I need to have a big finance guy on, I know who to call.
That's right. That's perfect. Add me to the Rolodex and we'll make it happen. Well, Gibson, appreciate it. I'll see you later.
Awesome. Thank you, man.